I think is really great on like the presentation side, but actually pulling the comps, I don't necessarily always agree with them. The main reason being that you can't sort by like Rambler versus two-story versus split level, which I feel like is a huge part of a home's value, right? Like the layout is massive when it comes to pricing homes. So just to recap in Moxie, you go to Moxie Present at the top here, Present, create new, and then for CMAs, it's going to be the seller option. And then I just always go with the brokerage template because it has all of the pages, and then you can take out the ones you don't want. Name it whatever you think is best. Give it a second to load. Okay. So first thing you need is the MLS number of the most recent listing. You guys are going to see how much I bought my house for. But what you're not going to see is that I have a 2.5% interest rate on it. Okay. I had a really great agent. Okay, so enter that in. Again, in Moxie system, it only goes back 10 years. So if you have a listing that has not been listed in the last 10 years, you have two options. You can either go through and fill out everything that you think is applicable to running a CMA in all of this down here. Or you can, if you have time, you can email Moxie support and they will input the information for you. It just takes like, I would give yourself 24 hours extra if you're going to do it that way. So depending on your time, you can do either. But it will enter in all of this great stuff.
You didn't get a chance to add your time.
How are we still not muting ourselves when we enter into conversations? Okay. I usually take out the old remarks and then, oops, hello, delete. There we go. And then if there's anything else in here that you think is like funky to add to like send to the next person, then take that out as well. But the rest of it usually, unless they've like added square footage or like done whatever, the rest of it doesn't really change. So, which we have not. Hit continue. So then this is where you're going to go in and add comps. So for the ease of showing you the differences between MLS, let's pull comps between both. So we have one that sold literally right across the street from us this year. So let's see. Yeah, that one pulled. This one. Nope. My eyes are bad. Okay, yeah. So it's not even showing actually the sale. So we had one literally sell right across the street from me, and it's not on here. So that in itself tells you that maybe it's not the best place to pull comps from. So what I do is I run basically a comp pull through the MLS, which I will walk you through how I do it. Everybody does it differently. So like tweak it to make it make sense for you, right? So first thing I do is put in, I start at 0.5 and go wider if I need to, but 0.5 miles. Usually if you're in an urban setting, you'll have enough comps. If you're more rural, then obviously that goes out wider, right? I do closed, comp sold. We'll start with 180. I don't think it's going to stay there because low turn neighborhood. Single story. And then we'll start with square footage. So my house finished square footage is around 1,500 square feet. So I'm going to do, what do I want to do? We'll do something like this to start. Just pretty narrow. Yeah, 0 matches. If you find that it's better for you to do bedrooms, bathrooms, which is actually what I'm going to do, then do that. 4 bedrooms.
Josh.
No, I love it. Okay, so I have 0 matches. Amazing.
You want to try a different house?
Huh?
You want to try a different house?
Nope.
Or maybe it's
I want this to be realistic, you know? The struggle of running CMAs. So what I'm going to do is back this up too. I'm going to do, I'll just do a year for ease. So I keep it pretty bare bones. So 6, we'll rock with 6 for this. So looking at this, knowing my house, I know that these are decent just because I know where I live, but obviously you'd then go through, look at each one, make sure it's a good comp. If it doesn't make sense, then you'll exclude it. If you need to do more, then switch around the parameters, right? But if you're looking at this on a map, this is why I like to start with distance, because school districts affect price, obviously, and then also like lakes. So I have a few lakes around me that, like, if I bring this out too far, I'm going to start to hit Crystal Lake. I'm going to start to hit Murphy Hanrahan, which, like, there's houses that butt up against that changes the value. So keeping it nice and tight, I think, is like the best option there. Okay. So that once you have determined that these are good comps, what I do is I just copy and paste. I switch over to MLS number and just paste them in. And then add those by doing that. Does that make sense? Everybody following so far? Cool. If you have questions at any time, let me know. Just gonna tip tap away at my keyboard here. Everybody values different things too. Like I said, the most important thing to me is the layout, which is what Moxie misses. I think it's easier to like make the adjustments for everything else. Making adjustments between a split level and a 2-story and a rambler, I think is quite difficult depending on like the actual house itself. So I try to avoid that if I can. Cassie, if you want to chime in at any time, feel free to. I value your opinion here. You are the one who taught me to run CMAs, so.
Tell Church I can stay. Can I ask a question?
Yeah,
I try and stay on the same side of major highways.
I agree with that. Anything that's like, I mean, when you're thinking about like Minneapolis, St. Paul, or any other like bigger community that has actual neighborhoods in the like in it, trying to stay in the same neighborhood even makes a difference. Like if you're looking at South Minneapolis and you're looking at specifically like Longfellow versus Powderhorn, like those have different values around them. Like that type of thing is also important. So again, I like to look at layout of house and then location of where you're pulling from.
I would agree, like the inner city is a lot harder, like
Yeah.
for myself, because I don't do a lot there. So don't hesitate to pull in another agent. I still do that all these years later. I will call other agents like, hey, I'm having a really hard time copying this out, or like, it's in this neighborhood. Is it really important in Minneapolis to stay in this neighborhood? You know,
Yeah.
someone who maybe just has a little bit more knowledge of that specific area. I will pull other people in all the time.
Well, and too, you have to remember that pricing a house is an art, not a science, right? Like if you ask 3 different people what the price of a home is, they're each going to have different answers. So understanding that and like getting opinions is never a bad thing.
And I've had agents who I've watched pull comps for me that pull it in a completely different way than I did. And then there's a comp and I'm like, I didn't that pull up in my search. How did you get that? You know, they just went about searching it completely different than I did.
Cool. So once you flip over to your listings page, you have your list of MLS closed and comp sold that you just pulled over from North Star. So this is where you can go in and make adjustments. Again, this is where people differ on how they do it. And you kind of have to know like each listing that you're doing this for is going to have different adjustments for the same thing. So like a bedroom is going to be worth different in different areas. Does that make sense? Am I saying that correctly? Yeah, so like the difference between a 3-bedroom and a 4-bedroom in Burnsville is going to be different than a 3-bedroom and a 4-bedroom in Whiteside. Like it, the scale of the cost associated with that difference is different in different areas. Okay, so to make adjustments in Moxie, you hit the add edit adjustment here. Before you click that, I recommend taking a look at what you're adjusting. So this has the same bedroom, same bathroom. It's within 250 square feet of each other. I'm gonna let that roll and just know that it's like the next house is a little bit bigger. I'm not gonna sit and adjust for specific square footage because like we live in a market that square footage, while it does matter, it's not like the end all be all. Like I have found with past clients that they care way more about how many bedrooms a house has versus like how much square footage a house has. Again, if your clients aren't like that, then adjust it for the other thing, right?
I have
Also-
clients too, where they're like, well, I looked on Zillow and the average square foot is $74.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't ran a price on a property on that map. Ever.
Yeah.
to be honest with you. Like, I don't do that. Some people do, and I just kind of say, we take a lot of other things into consideration that are more important to a buyer than price per square footage.
Yeah, and I mean, the nice thing about Moxie is that on the right-hand side here, it does tell you the price per square footage of all of the listings you have pulled. So you can see like we have one outlier that's 135 per square foot, which is quite low compared to the other ones. So maybe there's like probably a condition question at that point versus the other ones. Okay. So basically you hit add edit. If you're changing like, well, let me do it on one that actually needs a bedroom adjustment. So I'm going to type in bedroom because this has a 4-bedroom. My house technically has 4, but it's listed as a 3-bedroom on here. Keep it easy. So remember when you're running a CMA, you're changing the comparables to match the subject house, right? So if it has an extra bedroom, you're going to adjust the comparable property value down to match the subject property. So minus bedroom in my neighborhood's probably worth, yeah, probably between a 3-bedroom and a 4-bedroom.
But go back a second, because you said, yours is listed as 3-bedroom, but it's actually 4-bedroom. Do you guys know what qualifies as a bedroom?
Yeah.
Do you know that a closet is not required for it to be a legal bedroom?
Yes, it's just the window.
Door, window,
Or door
and a
window.
minimum of 70 square feet.
And ceiling height.
Yeah, and is that
Mhm.
in every city, that state? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
But a lot of people think a closet is required, and I've actually had agents list properties with a room that didn't have a closet, and other agents have reported it, saying it's not truly a 4-bedroom. That agent is uneducated, a closet is not a required component of a bedroom.
Egress,
Yeah,
door,
to be able to like.
square
take
footage,
the
ceiling
escape
height.
out of it in the event-
Technically, you need to have 2 ways out.
Right, so a door.
but it has, so the window height has to be a specific distance from the ground, which is like the determining factor for an egress.
Yeah.
And like a specific size of window too,
Right.
but
It's called internet standard.
Yeah. but if
But
you're
even though
looking,
Sorry.
no, you're good.
It doesn't matter now, because we're in Minnesota, but let's say you moved somewhere and you got licensed elsewhere. Like that city or municipality or state could require a closet for it to be a legal bedroom, even though the international standard does not. Yeah, but I'm
Yeah.
just saying like that could vary from state to state too.
We've had some agents that have gotten to appraisal on 1.5-story houses, and the ceiling, like the slanted ceilings in bedrooms have screwed them over on bedroom. So if you're listing a 1.5-story, just make sure that the actual square footage of the space of the room, that the appropriate ceiling height is a thing that is enough square footage for it to count as a bedroom. So anyway, so you add in your adjustments and then you hit confirm, and it'll show you, give it a second to think. It'll adjust it so it shows you adjusted price in the bold instead of the sold price. So now this is your new comp price. So for square footage, again, like if you have, so, okay, let me back up. If you're adjusting for square footage, I recommend giving yourself a buffer of, I don't know, somewhere around like 250 to 200 square feet either direction of the main number, would you say? To like adjust it into. So you don't have to adjust it to the specific number that your subject property is. Just get it into a ballpark of 200 to 250 on either direction of that square footage. Does that make sense? So like if I have a 1,500 square foot subject property, I'm going to adjust the square footage to either 1,700 or 1,300, a range of in there somewhere. Yes.
How do you know the different amounts, like you said, 10,000 for a bedroom?
It kind of depends. So it may take some research on like looking at specifically the price difference in that area between 3 bedrooms and 4 bedrooms, or 4 bedrooms and 5 bedrooms. Obviously, like if you're going from a 2-bedroom to a 3-bedroom, that's much more valuable than like going from a 4-bedroom to a 5-bedroom. for most people. So it takes a little bit of like market research in that way to kind of figure out what that average looks like. But
I average to about $2,000 a bedroom and $5,000 a bathroom.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, obviously that can vary, like you said,
Yeah.
going from 3 to a 4 is like, you know. If you have 3 kids, it's important for you to have a 4-bedroom,
Mhm.
but like for me, having a 5-bedroom isn't that important. I don't,
Right.
you know, how much am I, but I still just on average. Do about $10,000 bedroom, right? What do you do?
Any adjustment on updated or not updated?
yes,
For the-
condition.
No, like, so like bathroom is worth, like generally worth 5,000, if it's like fully renovated and whatever, is that like?
For
10?
for condition of the house, I would, for kitchen specifically, I do.
Okay.
Bathrooms, I mean, like, I personally maybe will throw a couple thousand at it, but like, as somebody who has renovated bathrooms, it doesn't cost that much to make it look nice. So like, I don't know if that makes a huge difference in, especially if it's like just the bathroom that's not updated and the rest of the house is, like,
Oh,
I don't know if that makes a huge difference in the home's value. I don't know.
I'm more like, okay, I'm looking at my stats. Right,
Mhm.
and I'm adjusting, okay, I have 2 bath, 3 bath, whatever, and I'm kind of coming up with my price, then I take overall condition into it. So I don't individualize like, okay, you have a bathroom, let's say that's $5,000, but it's updated and I'm gonna add some, I don't get that nitpicky. I kind of like
Yeah.
come up with it and then I compare that house to what's updated, what's not, and the overall sales price. So
Mhm.
again, your way is not wrong, my way is not wrong, it's just a matter of kind of looking at the overall picture. Like, I
Mhm.
kind of feel like most people, the house is kind of all in or all out and as
Yeah.
far as updating, right? So you usually don't have like this mega kitchen with a
Yeah.
real bathroom. I mean, well, I just do my own house right now, but
Yeah, but you're not taking your house to market. That's the difference.
Right.
Like, by the time a house is going to market, it's either like completely raw and like ready for a renovation, or it is like, like to a point where it looks cohesive
right.
most of the time. Obviously, there's like exceptions to
Well,
that,
no,
but
yeah, I was just gonna say, I find myself now, it's like, I think in the very beginning, I'm more individual adjustments.
Yeah.
But now,
Mhm.
now I've been doing it for so long, I feel
Yeah.
like I very rarely do individual adjustments based on this or that. I think your comps kind of usually paint a pretty good picture of like, I think it usually tells like, oh, my client's kitchen is shittier.
right.
Like, it's gonna be.
Yeah, and I mean,
Like,
even if you look at the comps I pulled, like they're all within, I think like the biggest difference is 80 grand, but like some of that just comes with like market knowledge of the area you're working in and being like, okay, well, it's gonna end up somewhere in this ballpark.
Yeah, but I do way less, cause I feel like it's,
Yeah.
that's super time consuming, you're like,
Mm-hmm.
well, this bedroom's this big, like, how should I adjust? It's like, well, if you have a 3-2 and there's other 3-2s in the same neighborhood, it'll be generally in that ballpark, give or take, like, condition based on
Mm-hmm.
the head-to-head comparison, I think, but.
I 100% agree with you. And when I'm meeting with a client, if they're like, well, yeah, this is pretty similar, but you know, my master bedroom's 100 square feet more. Okay, I don't know a single buyer who's gonna walk in here, notice that it's 100 square feet. I mean, they may notice it's a little bigger, but they're not gonna tell me that they're willing to pay $5 million,
Yeah.
$10 more because you have a bigger
Yeah.
bedroom.
And that's
Mhm.
usually like one of the, like the conversation I have right away, before I even reveal what I was thinking for a number, I ask what they think, if they have a price in mind. And then it's generally a little bit higher than what I'm thinking, and then that's when and then I ask like, why do you think that? And then when I show them the comps, they'll be like, well, your neighbors like have a project, or like stuff like that. So like I said, I just do a lot less individual adjustments. I feel like
Yeah.
when you do that, it's like you're going through the fine tooth comb, it's taking you so long to do a CMA, when you're really arriving at the same conclusion, it's like look at the comps.
Yeah, I
I'm the
mean,
opposite over, I don't, and that's, your way's not wrong, I know lots of agents that do it your way. I don't ask them up front what it's worth. I wait until I go through my comps and tell them my number, and then I say, what are you thinking of this number? What did you think it
Yeah.
was worth? And then we start that conversation. I'll say, if you notice, I never asked you what you thought your home was worth. And the reason was because I wanted to come here with my data, and I wanted the data to speak for itself. I didn't want whatever you thought your home was worth to like influence my decision that I was coming in here, you know, and both ways work, like I said, I know lots of
Yeah.
agents, because some agents say, why would I come in there prepared if I'm coming on up with a 325 number? And they told me that they thought their home was worth 375, 400, I know I'm gonna have to do a lot more, you know, objection handling with that.
Yeah.
And I totally get your way too. It's just, I think at the beginning I found like. We could, I just feel like sometimes based on personality types, like there might be like a couple minutes of like, I'm offended by what you just
Yeah.
said. So it's easy, I think with my personality type, it's easy for me to like break down what they were thinking.
Right.
And then introduce my train of thought, but again, I think it really comes down to the mirror matching, like,
Yeah.
who are you dealing with, so.
What was that?
Says, so let me prove you wrong. is
Yeah.
the Mentality, like
Yeah,
I like do it that way too.
Yeah.
Like, well, let me show you why.
right.
Yeah.
And I think, and then, cause I also think it helps me, like come off as the expert, cause it's like, well, you thought that, and then like nicer way of saying, but it's like, this is why you're wrong.
Yeah.
And like, and I know because I did this work out.
Yeah.
But
I think to that point too, it's important, once you kind of have your number, before you even go to the house, I think it's important to look at what's on the market in that area too, to be like, is this even like a reasonable number? Are we under? Are we over? Like, where are we landing? And then going into that, I mean, now we're getting into like pricing strategy, but like understanding the timeline of what they like, are they needing to sell because they're a contingent buyer? Or do they have some time to potentially like go on a little bit higher and sit on the market for a little bit? Like, what is the pricing strategy around that? And let that kind of go into, because at the end of the day, like you're gonna come up with a number, but there's also like a range that exists too, that like, if we go at the high end, this is that number. If we're gonna go under market, this is that number. Here's the middle number. So like coming with options too is always good.
well, that's what I was gonna ask, too, like, cause I always come up with 3 numbers.
Yes,
You generally come up with the range as well.
yes.
Yeah.
So there's an option, we'll get to it, but there's an option in Moxie to do a single number or a range.
Yeah. that's
I
what-
always recommend range, especially like if you're doing this now for them to list in spring, like this number is gonna change,
Yeah.
come around to spring. So, for adjustments though, most important, bedroom, bathroom count, I think is super important. Square footage, if it's like drastically off, like if you're pulling, for example, my house doesn't have a finished basement. If you're pulling comps that have a finished basement and the square footage is like double what the main floor is, like adjusting it a little bit is helpful. And then, again, knowing the neighborhood, my house backs up to a park, so I don't have any neighbors in my backyard. So like, that's obviously an adjustment of value to that as well. So like knowing some intricacies of the neighborhood is important, but basically you'll go through, you'll adjust, the numbers will change. Do you want me to keep going through adjustments? Yes.
On your scenario, just so on your first scenario, when she's talking about the unfinished basement.
Mhm.
Look at seeing, you'd then be comparing what the main floor. Square footage is, so
Mhm.
if her main floor square footage is 1,600, then you'd be looking at the comps, the main floor square footage.
Squidge.
Square footage.
Yeah.
Is 1,600 or
Squiddage.
there. That's.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, looking at this comp list, like I would adjust this number down because that's pretty, I mean, that's almost double what mine is. Probably this one too. Other than that, I'd leave the rest. So I'm not gonna do that though, unless you guys want me to. Do you want me to go through and adjust all of these or can we? Okay, cool. So once you go through, do all your adjustments, you'll hit continue. Cool. So this is your pricing page. So once you've adjusted everything, it'll change this where you'll be able to see like your average or median, whatever, of the properties. It's going to give you average sales price of all of them and average square footage. I mean, you can do whatever you want. This is where I would hit create a range and I'm putting in my minimum. So if we're wanting to sell this super quick, a little bit below market value, and then your maximum of it, like, this is what I think the most your house will sell for without going into multiples. That's that number. Does that make sense? Cool. We'll just do 360, whatever. Okay. So then this is your pages. If you are presenting this, I recommend looking at the pages where it lays out the listings. They're all pretty similar. They show different things, but like when you're actually presenting, it's a lot. So I recommend looking at the different listing pages and deciding which one makes the most sense for that specific client, yes.
Well, I was gonna say, the listing overview one is the big one, like especially
Yeah.
the PDF.
Yep, so you can go, as you're going through here, if you're printing this, you can go here and exclude photos. So you can still include that
Oh.
page, but it takes out all of the listing photos for every single comp, which reduces it down significantly. Yes.
Oh.
You can thank Jared Stoneman. He actually taught me that. So, yeah. Yeah. So you hit the edit button and then just toggle this off. So. Cool. Once you've done that, oh, sorry, back up one page. Almost forgot. Don't forget to do what I think one of the best things that Moxie can do is the estimated net proceeds. What I do is I do a net sheet on Flex Titles page or whatever net sheet you typically do, and I just copy the numbers in just so that I know. In the same way that like they pull comps, I don't necessarily trust that Moxie's pulling the correct numbers all the time. So that's what I do. You can just fill it in if you want to, but like I don't want to go and look up the state tax when Title already has it integrated into their system. So I do that. So that way, when it comes to the net proceeds page, it's giving them a nice big number that they can see like, hey, if we sell it this is how much you're gonna make. Cool. So to send it, you can either send it as an email or you can send it like take the link and then write out an email and send it to them, or you can present it to them as a listing presentation, which is, I think, great because it's like interactive. They can ask questions and you can like show them the different comps right there. And I don't know. How are people using this in actual listing, like real life listing scenarios? Yes.
So I do, so question.
Yeah.
Before I say what I'm gonna say,
Yeah.
when you hit send,
Hmm.
I remember, okay, so you can, because what I've been doing, because the first time I tested it out, there was like a lot of lag time for some reason, which when I hit send, I like asked my buddy when he got it.
Sure.
And so I've been going into like Follow Boss,
Hmm.
emailing the link and also PDF attachment. Probably doesn't matter, but in that way I can, and maybe I'm just not savvy with Moxie because I couldn't find a way to track it either. So I can Follow Boss, like I can see if they opened it.
Yeah.
But yeah, because I also go through my database like once a quarter, where I've been trying to, and like send them an update.
Yeah.
Made through Moxie, kind of good practice too, but, yeah, for listings, I usually send the same thing, pretty much like a link and a PDF, like right before I go.
Okay.
I'm, like about to leave my house, I'll send it to them in an email so they have something to reference. 'Cause I don't love them having like, me giving them information and not my client yet, but
Yeah.
make it easier for them to reference, but then I also print out the PDF and bring it. to the listing.
Okay. Are you using High Note at all?
What?
High Note? So when,
I'm not very tech savvy, the problem thing.
so when I was, what? High Note? What do you mean?
I think it's a listing presentation on there.
Mhm.
The slide. I don't know, I love Pinecone, but if it's set up right, it does the job for you.
Yeah. So when I was selling and I was preparing for listings, I would send a high note a few days before that had like all of the stuff that I don't care to talk about in person, like the photography, the videography, like here's examples of that. You don't need me to like walk you through that at the house. And then I treated my Moxie presentation as my listing presentation. And I'm like, this is specifically about your house and how the market is affecting your value of your house, because that's at the end of the day, what I think is gonna determine whether or not they work with you. I mean, marketing is important too, obviously. But that's how I used it. I mean, obviously people use it different ways. I know a lot of people who print it out and bring it as a PDF and just walk it through like other MLS or like MLS connected CMA systems too. So I would recommend like playing around and seeing like what system works best for you.
I know it's just a presentation software.
It's an email, like it breaks your email down into modules, and then on the back end, you can see analytics for how long they're looking at each module. So like if you're able to break down like your pricing strategy, your market stats, your marketing, and like you can see what they're spending the most time looking at, then you kind of know going into it what they care the most about. Because they're spending their own time looking at it.
Looking at
the
There's
modules in
different
High Note.
sections in the email.
I'm with him, like, there's a lot, and I'm still trying to get a handle on.
Yeah.
I was a stupid question. High note, is that something that works with follow boss or is that separate?
No, it's separate, but you can, same way that you're sending your Moxie stuff, like you can just take the link from the presentation in High Note that you're making and send it out, which is what I recommend doing because the email comes from High Note if you send it through High Note. Which is like, if I got that, I
You
wouldn't
make
open
like-
it.
you Send it. Follow boss
Mhm.
your person.
Yeah. Yep.
That makes sense.
Yep. Are there any other questions about like running a CMA using Moxie? Obviously, like the MLS has a CMA tool in it that you can use. I just think Moxie is a little bit more interactive, a little bit more pretty to look at. Yes,
So I know that, okay, so I was using Moxie last night.
Yes.
because I was just trying to play around with it, and I put in my lead who was about to, trying to decide whether or not to put in an offer, and I put in the lead in, or the property into Moxie. And then it was like, oh, setting up the person on, like, these plans or whatever, like it set the buyer up on, like, some kind of plan or something. Did they like get emails? Like, do they know what I'm doing in Moxie? If they're.
I don't know if I know what you mean.
That box.
Did you check buyer? That was fellow, you're right.
I was gonna say.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, yeah, Fellow is separate. Fellow is like a home, like an automated home valuation tool.
Right.
That is great in a lot of ways. It does email clients out 2 to 3 times a month if you register them into it. So know that they are getting those emails. They're AI driven, so that it changes based on the behavior of the person you're sending it to.
Okay.
Yeah.
But kind of helpful, but-
I mean, like, we have great open and click rate on Fellow, and we're working on the back end of like getting you guys more into that so that you can see, because it's literally people raising their hand asking for home valuations, which is like, obviously, like, we can see the people who have come through our site and been like, I want a home valuation, and then listed with somebody else because we didn't take care of them.
yeah.
So, and there's a lot. So we are working on ways to like make that not happen anymore. So there will be like a follow-up on Fellow relatively soon. We're just still working out all the details of how exactly we want that to look. Yeah.
I was gonna say, yeah, I would recommend if you are messing on Bell, it's like, it's one of those things you want to monitor. So
Yes.
if you
Yeah.
are in people in it, like, check it
Mm-hmm.
regularly, because I think it's very easy to, like, you're like, oh, I'm gonna use Fellow now, and you put stuff in it, and then you never look at it
Yeah.
again, and then you kind of miss it.
Yeah. We'll have a whole training on it when we have like structure around it a little bit more, but
I was gonna say, could you, so I'm a high note person.
Yeah.
I totally blocked CMAs. Moxie, but if you could run through quickly, like on Moxie, just like little blurbs you would talk about as you're going. clicking
oh,
through.
yeah, for sure.
I think that's the part where I was like, maybe going too fast or whatever, but.
Yeah.
And then does Fellow send you alerts? Like I use Cobot, there's a simple bot before I started.
We were
so they
too.
Send me alerts when my sellers are looking.
So Fellow is fully integrated into Follow Boss. So if you have your alerts turned on in Follow Boss, you will get Fellow alerts through Follow Boss. If you don't have the alerts turned on, you won't get alerts. So it's like Blair said, something to monitor. Most people have them turned off. There are settings in Fellow that you can turn on to get notified. That, I mean, I recommend everybody have on, because again, it's people raising their hand asking you for information, but I'm hoping by next week we'll be able to clarify and run through all of that stuff and like get you guys the information you need to be able to like effectively do that and not waste a whole bunch of time trying to figure it out on your own. Okay, so if I was presenting this, obviously the first page is like their stuff. So whatever you want to talk about on this page, like it's their property, so they know about it, right? Okay. This is one of the comps page. So I like this page because it shows it on a map. So I know my house is here. This is the one that sold right across the street from me. The rest are in the next neighborhood over, which Like, there is a somewhat of a major highway, but like, I would consider all of this to be an accurate representation of my neighborhood. So if you wanted to talk about like why you pulled a specific location, this is a good way to do that. You can click on specific properties too, and like go through photos here, which you can do on every listing comparable, but if this is the one you choose, just know that you can go through those on there. Okay, leave me alone. Keep scrolling. This page, same thing. I mean, like, you can click on and look at it, but I feel like it's a little redundant. Like, I would rather, for my brain, again, this comes into knowing like your client too. My brain works better seeing it on a map because this is how I'm used to looking on like Zillow and like Realtor and like all of those things, right? So my brain works better on a map. Some people like to see all of it side by side without having to scroll, whatever works. And then this also shows the side by side of all of the stats too, which is helpful for some people. Not me. I see this, I glaze over. So, but I mean, this is a good one to talk about like days on market if you want to. I mean, other than that,
If they're like familiar with any of the houses, like if they're
Yeah.
renting any of them, if they've ever been in them, then it's easy too when you're talking price because of different conditions and that's like reference.
yeah, you bet your ass I was in this house touring it when it was listed. I was like, need to see. This page does the same thing as the last one. Again, like, these are kind of repetitive. They do that on purpose so that you can choose which one makes the most sense for the specific client. Like, if you have someone that's more analytical, this page or the last page is probably going to be more effective than a map because a map is more of like a visual representation, right? So if you know that your person is like a more analytical person, laying out all the numbers in one place is going to make more sense to their brain than doing a visual on a map, potentially.
On some of these pages that you think
Yeah.
that-
So if I were actually sitting down with my client, I would just be using this page
Okay.
or this page. I would take out which one is this one? Side by side comparison, take it out. Too many numbers and things to look at.
That's why I'm off, like,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Take the picture.
I like that this one shows sold price too, because like it shows that some of these sold for over like this one. So all of them but one, which is great for me. And then these are just averages. So I would leave these in. This is, I mean, this is sold price. So talking about like, this is what how's it sold for. Average day on market was 14 days. So 2 weeks, which I would explain like starts at active and goes until pending, right? Like there's some time in there that's taken over by different scenarios. Yeah. Price and days on market. This graph
This,
doesn't make sense to me at all. I'm like, what am I looking at? Take it out.
because there's another page too that has a graph on it, right?
This one.
This one.
Yeah, anything, yeah, where.
Take it out.
Sometimes I'll leave price and size if it like makes sense, but if it's too scattered, I'd get rid of it.
Like this
It's
doesn't,
very rare to keep
this
them,
doesn't, well, it's also like, what is helping you
Yeah.
versus like, what is hurting you? Like this doesn't do anything for me. So I'm get rid of it.
Sometimes mine are like really tight, right, in the size is kind of what's like.
Mhm.
If it makes sense, but like these are just like dots everywhere, so.
I will say like, you can look at the dots and like open it up to see what you're looking at, which is nice, but like, I'm not, again, I am not a graph person. I'm not a graph person. I don't know what I'm looking at. Like, if I don't understand it, how am I gonna explain it to somebody else? Like, I can't do that. I'm just a girl, you know? And then pricing analysis. So this is where you're pricing whatever. If you choose one number, if you choose a range, like this is where it's gonna go. This is also going to show all of your averages, and then the next page is net proceeds. So like, if you take out the pages that don't make sense to you, it's like a quite logical way to like talk about their house. I feel it's
I was
just,
gonna say, on average, like how many pages are left? Because I feel like most of them.
Well, we've taken out 3, so you're gonna have. Math is hard. You'll have 9. You'll have 9 pages. And then one of them is your bio page at the end, but. Okay,
And there's sometimes like. with
Excuse
Amazon
me.
meeting That we don't want to talk about like one or the other with those 2 pages.
yeah,
I usually keep them both because I'm gonna leave the packet there, so like whatever they like to look
Yeah.
at, like I'll keep it, but I will only copy. Of it.
yeah,
I'm like, and I'll say like, here's the same information laid out differently.
yeah. I find that, I mean, again, just speaking from my own experience, I find that when I'm like at the actual listing appointment, like they want to talk about their house and what the price is. They don't really, yeah, and how much you charge. They don't really care about like the big picture of like how the general market in the Twin Cities is doing. Like they want to know what it's doing and how it's affecting their house. So like I just don't even do it. I just like bring that and I'm like, this is your house. This is like literally the data for your house. And this is how I came up with the price for specifically your house. If they want to talk about the market as a whole, like let's do that, I guess. But I find it's like a waste of time. And like I don't care to do it. Marketing stuff, I'll bring like our listing guide that has like all of the photos in our listing guide. If you guys didn't know this, are our listing photos. So you can use those like as an example of like, these are photos that will be representative of like what your photos will look like. Obviously they're like the best looking houses, but it's, yeah, I mean, I don't know what else on an actual appointment. The high note I have found that if you had like set it up optimally for how you run your listing appointments will cut down your time in a house dramatically, which is like best case scenario because I hate small talk and I hate being in strangers' houses. So
I wonder if Hannah's not selling anymore.
great question.
Real estate?
Like,
Oh,
I am a Packers fan. That's why. I don't know. Not a small talk person. I don't like to waste my time. I don't like to waste my clients' time.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing about listing is like the whole mirroring thing. Like
Yes.
they're gonna drive it, you just need to like pick up on like what they are looking.
Yeah.
They wanna talk about.
Are you
more
cutting
about
me off?
price Stuff like talk more about price, but they'll let you know what is important to them, like you're paying attention, so.
Yes. And like just matching energy in general, like that's like sales 101, right? You have to match the energy of the person you're across the room from. So
But I also think there's to some degree you have to take control of the appointment.
yes.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
You're heading in the right direction,
like,
but
you know, I go in and I have like what I do.
An agenda.
each Time, you know, obviously we kind of veer off of it.
I just
let
meant
it
more like
private,
what
but-
you like are doubling down on, like what you need to like put more focus on, because yeah, like cancer, there are certain parts you kind of see their eyes glaze over, it's like, all right. let's
Yeah,
get you
they-
from
Moving on.
Right.
Yeah.
But like, I also don't wanna sit there and have them, like you said.
Yeah.
I wanna talk about them in their house and their life stories, and like, that's really great, and I'll have about 5 minutes of it before like I need to
Yes.
get moving on, because I only wanna be at that house a max an hour.
Yeah.
Personally.
Same.
They give me like a beer or something, I could see.
Blair, you're not supposed to drink and do real estate at the same time. You signed a contract. You signed an ethics contract saying that you wouldn't do that. I'm turning you in. All right, any other questions? Any other questions about CMAs, Moxie, anything like that? Cool, I'm gonna take that as a no. All right. Of course, anytime for all of you lovely.
Who's that, Tanner? Been here.
Yeah, Tanner.
How are you leaving?
Alright. Probably Zillow.
Yeah.
Spirit. Yeah.
Come get pizza. Pizza.
I don't want to get up yet.
Feeling good.
Yeah.
You don't seem very thrilled.
No,
Just
it's
like
fine.
your hair.
Yeah, I chopped 6 inches off a few weeks ago.
Oh, really? I didn't notice it till now.
Chopped it. I don't like when it gets stuck in my armpits. So I had to chop it.
Oh. My hair's never been that long. My hair doesn't grow
Yeah.
like at all. I would love to have long hair, but even when I was in high school, I think I only got it to like.
My hair grows so long. It's already grown probably half inch to an inch since I've chopped it. Yeah. It grows so
I
fast.
every 6 weeks to get my hair freshened up, and in that 6 weeks, if I grow this much.
Yeah.
And then when it gets to a point, it just breaks off.
Yeah.
I missed you, was that invite
Oh.
only? It wasn't?
Mm-mm.
Wow,
I like came in like the door was shut and I was like, what do I?
Nope, it was just